All right, let's give a hand clap for the good television program there. Good stuff. All right, welcome to the Student Statesmanship Institute Gubernatorial Candidate Debate. The students have been preparing their campaigns all week. I think they have decided the issues that they want to focus on. They have campaign platforms. They've been raising money. They've been going door to door. They've been creating advertisements for television. And tonight, we're going to have the debate between the three campaigns. For those of you who don't know, these are not the candidates for governor. It would look like the Republican primary debate. I think there's about 15, that would be about right. But these are teams that are working on behalf of a candidate who is not here tonight because we made them up. But they are working as a campaign team, and they will be the surrogates speaking on behalf of their candidate tonight. We have three parties represented. We have the Elm Party, that's in this table right here. We have the Maple Party in the middle, and we have the Willow Party. But you're not voting for a party specifically, you're voting for a candidate who is running on that party's ticket. So the Elm Party candidate is Brian T. Ashley. That is his name. The Maple Party candidate is Holden Richards. That's their candidate. And then the Willow Party's candidate is Dr. Howlett J. Jeffries, excuse me. And I think it's Brian T. Ashley, so I forgot the middle initial, I apologize. All right, and so the way this is going to go tonight, we have the campaigns here, and I'll call them by name when it's their turn. They're each assigned to take a portion of the issues. We also have a panel of media who are going to ask the questions of the candidates. And those are Jonathan Moinkowski from the Detroit Free Press right there. And we have Arthur Odinson from Midgard Sentinel right there. And we have Cindy McPherson, who's from the Michigan Information Research Service, MIRS right there. They're going to be asking the questions. And I just want to give a shout out to Kyle Kissinger here and Carrie Thompson. Where's Carrie? She's back there in the back. They have been the coaches for the campaign team. Oh, and Jonathan? Okay, Moan's been doing that too. Okay, wherever's Jonathan? Where is he at? He's hiding. Okay, there he is back there in the back. So thank those guys for that. They've been helping prepare the candidates. Also, what we're going to do at the very beginning here is we're going to pass out some cards. I think we have our... Somebody to do that? You already have them. Never mind. I was not informed of that. Those cards are for you to write down questions. We will collect them, and near the end we'll have a time for audience questions that we will give to the campaigns as well. In addition, each team is going to get an opening statement for a minute, and then on each one of the questions they will have 1 minute response per candidate, and the only change to that will be if one of the campaigns wants to challenge a statement made by another candidate. Each candidate will get 3 challenges throughout the debate. So if you want to issue a challenge, you have to let me know, and then we'll give you 30 seconds for that, and then the candidate being challenged can respond with a 30-second response. Okay, so we'll keep track of how many challenges you have, but remember, you only get 3, and we'll try to keep track of that and try to keep this thing on track. Now, for all of the voters out there, this is your chance to hear from the candidates personally and ask questions if you want to write them down. Pay attention, because tomorrow night, each of you is going to go to the polls and choose one of these 3 to be your next governor. Okay? All right, are you all ready? Everyone take a deep breath, because it's no time to be nervous now. All right, we will have opening statements, starting with Abigail Hester, representing Brian T. Ashley. You guys can go ahead, and the other 2 following, and then I'll announce you when it's your time. So, Abigail, would you please give your opening statement for Brian Ashley?
Yes.
And speak right into the mic too, you guys, because we have to be able to hear you.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming here tonight. This evening, I would like to tell you about my candidate, Brian Ashley. He has dedicated his life to serving our country and has worked hard to protect the freedoms that came at such a high cost. He served in the United States Marine Corps and later graduated from the University of Michigan with his law degree. With that, he served the Oakland and Wayne counties and with his practice, and later was elected Attorney General for 2 consecutive terms. When he finished there, he became president of Western University, and in only 4 years, he solved their financial problems, doubled their freshman enrollment rate, and improved the overall reputation of that college. And now, with all this experience behind him, Brian Ashley has moved forward and is ready to become the governor of Michigan to protect your family, freedom, and future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll hold all applause till after each question is done. Now we'll have Austin Church giving the opening statement for Holden Richards.
Thank you. And thank you all for coming and spending your time with us tonight. I'm Austin Church from the Maple Party, and I support Holden Richards for governor of Michigan. Let me give a quick introduction for Mr. Richards. Holden Richards grew up on his family's farm and soon after graduated from the prestigious Yale University with a degree in American Studies. Mr. Richards is a former Michigan State Representative, ordained minister, and the founder of Share House Incorporated, a residential treatment program for those recovering from alcohol and drug dependencies. For over 35 years, Share House has served adults and the families of those challenged by alcoholism, substance abuse, and/or mental health disorders. Richards believes that every Michigan citizen should be entitled to a valid education. He acknowledges that the Michigan roads need fixing, and he has a plan to fix them. He is also a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then we have Becca Brown speaking on behalf of Dr. Howlett J. Jeffries.
Thank you. I am thrilled to be allowed the privilege of sharing with you the credibility of Dr. Howlett J. Jeffries. He is a man with a plan and a caring heart. Howlett Jeffries has lived in Michigan his entire life, graduating from Michigan State University and later serving the people in his community as a youth pastor, a physician for over 12 years, and as a state representative, where he gained the trust and respect of the people with over 65% of the vote, and later unopposed, where he worked in various committees dedicated to serving our wonderful state. In all of his endeavors, Dr. Jeffries has drawn upon his experience as a doctor and his caring attitude towards every important issue that the people of this state care about. Howlett cares about the safety of Michiganders like you, the care and maintenance of our roads, our right to bear arms and protect citizens in the midst of an unknown and new policies surrounding state and federal rights and the issues of drones. We are thrilled to represent Dr. Howlett J. Jeffries, and we hope that you will join us in our support. Please vote for Dr. Jeffries for Michigan Governor. And remember, think progress, think Howlett.
Very good. Thank you. Let's give them a hand for good opening statements. Okay, now we're going to move to the issues part of our debate. The students are going to debate the issues in a certain order. We're going to take the roads first, then the Second Amendment issues, and then the 10th Amendment states' rights issues, and then we're going to debate drones. Aren't you excited about that? And then we will have closing statements, and in between all that, we'll have questions from you guys. So we're going to take the roads first. That will be Chelsea Lloyd, representing Holden Richards, and Becca Brown, representing Dr. Jeffries, and Caleb Ho, representing Brian Ashley. And our press will begin the questions. I believe, Jonathan, you are the first questioner.
Yes, so I would like to know what your
You have to get right in the microphone or they won't be able to hear you. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay, so I would like to know what your long-term implementation plans are and how you want to fund your programs for fixing Michigan's roads.
Right.
All right. All right.
Reformat the thing. I was misinformed. They're supposed to make party plan statements first, and then we have the questions. Is that correct? So I blew that, so I apologize. So I made a mistake, sorry. Okay, so first will be Holden Richards, Maple, Chelsea Lloyd.
Thank you. Did you know that Michigan has a total of 120,256 miles of paved roadway? That is enough pavement to build a one-lane road from Earth to the moon. That's a lot of pavement. Also keep in mind too that only 17% of our state's roads are considered to be in good shape. 45% of the roads are in fair shape, and 38% are in poor shape. According to JustFixTheRoads.com, the average Michigander pays $357 annually for unnecessary repairs to their vehicles due to the poor quality of this road. These roads are dangerous and a life-threatening thing to our citizens. Holden Richards knows this, and he wants to fix this. So Richards' plan is to place a cap on the gas tax in Michigan. The cap will be on what portion of this gas tax goes to fund local governments and school systems. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Second statement will be from Becca Brown, representing Dr. Howlett Jeffries.
Thank you. Now, I'm sure we can all agree that our roads are really heinous. Like, they're awful. Dr. Howlett Jeffries agrees with you, as do the other candidates represented here. The difference is between how we are all going to approach the solution. This is a complex issue, and there are many suggested answers. Some include repaving the entire roadway system and starting fresh. But how we continue to maintain funding our roads once we toss billions of dollars back into our streets. Some suggest allowing local governments to individually pay for and standardize their personal roads. And some propose raising taxes or implementing tolls until we solve our roadways' dangerous disrepair. Howlett Jeffries intends to rebudget, raise funds, and fix our roads from the state level based on the knowledge and support of our local governments represented by people like you assembled here who can help contribute to the solution. Rather than demolish our standing roadways, Dr. Jeffries' plan would allow individual roads to be evaluated and fixed based on needs. His plan would entail quality materials, responsibly sourced and cost-effective. Our funding would stem from budget cuts by 1% across the board in order to ensure responsible use of our tax dollars, as well as raising funds by a 0.5% tax increase. In the long run, Dr. Howlett Jeffries' homegrown love for this state and its roads, as well as its people, will lead to responsible spending, lasting solutions, and greater results for the state of Michigan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And then Caleb Ho has Brian T. Ashley's statement on the roads.
As Michigan residents, we know there are two seasons, winter and road construction. You may be wondering why this government spends so much time and money fixing their roads. The answer is that the roads weren't done well in the first place. Brian Ashley knows that we don't need our road fixed. We need them fixed right. Therefore, he will be pushing for improving the materials that we build our roads out of for longer lasting results. This means less potholes, less cracks, less bumps in your roads. You may be wondering, if this new material will raise taxes, is it expensive? The simple answer is no. The newer, higher quality road material will not cost much more than the one that we already have. We will not need to redo the roads so often because of this material, saving on money and time so we can spend that time fixing smaller, less used roads that may be in worse condition. In short, Ashley will make sure that our roads last longer at no more cost to you, and soon we won't have a need for a season of road construction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we can have our panel questions, starting with Jonathan Moinkowski.
Yes, to all three of you, I'd like to know what your long-term implementation plans are and how you want to plan each of these programs.
Okay, we'll start with Chelsea.
Thank you. Richards wants to fix the roads by using money collected for roads through the aforementioned road gas tax to work on resurfacing. By resurfacing, we will take down 2 inches of the asphalt that is currently on the roads and replacing it with fresh asphalt. This is a fix that will last roughly 5 to 10 years and is very effective.
Okay, is that it?
Yes, that is.
Okay. And then Becca Brown for Dr. Jeffries.
Thank you. Well, Dr. Howlett recognizes that this is a long-term issue and we need long-term solutions. He plans to work with local officials, even from the state level, to build up areas that need funding the most, that need to be redone or filled fill the potholes or repave if necessary. But not every road needs that, and we want to manage our money wisely, and we want to spend only where necessary because your tax-paying dollars are valuable to us, and Dr. Howlett wants to support you in that, so thank you.
Okay, Caleb Ho for Dr. Ashley, or Brian Ashley.
Brian Ashley knows that you don't want to spend another cent for our roads, but you also want better roads, and he can do this for you. Our material, like I said, will not cost you any taxpayer dollars. And at very worst, we may reprioritize our budget, but it won't affect very many things. You'll still have your schools, your public services, all in full swing, as they usually are.
Okay, very much, very good. We have now Arthur Odinson with a question.
Does your candidate have plans to implement alternative road models, such as solar roadways or recycled plastic roadways, and how will you implement them?
Okay, starting back with Chelsea.
Well, our Mr. Holden Richards does believe that there is a future in sustainable materials for road building. That is why, for right now, he wants to work on resurfacing the roads, but he definitely, as soon as he gets office, wants to take a look into more sustainable materials. For example, solar panel roadways, which are very, which while is a large cost, will pay for itself in the long run and will be very efficient and will actually generate lots of power for our state, and also bring in perhaps a large amount of tourism. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Becca Brown, same question. Alternative road models or an implementation?
Thank you. Well, Dr. Jeffries knows that solar roadways are really, really cool, but the technology hasn't been developed yet. But with this alternative funding and managing our money wisely, we can still save for the future when the technologies have been developed, and we can implement those in the future. But right now, we want to make the progress that we can make today with lasting impacts, with quality materials, and cost-effective planning. So in short, thank you for allowing the opportunity to plan for the future, but right now we would like to work in the present.
Okay, and Caleb Ho for Brian Ashley on the same question.
As of right now, our only plan is for alternate roads is the one we have to change out the materials we use in our roads. This means, of course, however, that does not mean that we're ruling out further technological advancements like solar roads. However, we do understand that the technology is not there yet, and it will be extremely expensive in order to implement all these roads, no matter how much money they'll save in the long run. However, in order to save you money now, we're going to improve your roads and help and make sure that they're all fixed by the end of the year.
Okay. All right, so from the audience, if you have any questions on roads, you can write those down and just hold the cards up, and our staff will collect them, and we'll ask those later. Let's give them, oh, you have a challenge?
Yes.
Okay, we have a challenge from the Maple Party.
Yes. Well, Holden Richards does realize the absolute advantage that technology has, though what makes it helpful is knowing what we use with it. In the mentioning of the Elms Party's new material that they're going to use in roads, what would it be exactly, and how do we know for sure that it would not raise the price that normally would go into road making?
Okay, there's a question to you, Caleb, on Ashley's position on the roads.
The answer to that is nanoclays, son. Monomerilonite is a microscopically thin mineral layer that increases the stiffness and sturdiness of our roads. We will have to use very little of it, so we won't have to buy a whole lot. It will make it more resilient in the face of physical trauma that happens when trucks are heavy that travel over them, when it gets cold and the ice builds up under the roads, which causes potholes. This will make sure that these roads don't break in the face of those things.
Okay, so then the second question was the cost for that. How can you be sure that it's not going to cost more?
This will not cost more because we have to use only so little, and the materials are relatively cheap.
Okay, so very good. Let's give them a hand for a good round of questions on the roads. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move to the Second Amendment issues dealing with the right to bear arms, etc. We have Leah Vanderband representing Dr. Jeffries, Abigail Hester representing Brian Ashley, and Phoebe Fink representing Holden Richards, and they will each give opening statements, starting with Leah Vanderband representing Dr. Jeffries.
Thank you. Howlett J. Jeffries stands on the fact that it is our right to have weapons. However, recent history has shown that mental background checks are essential, as a criminal background check is also essential for the safety and well-being of our precious youth. The plan for mental health check on a person who requests to obtain a gun is not overbearing. Law-abiding citizens would have no problem obtaining guns, and this plan would only be tailored to detect people with large amounts of emotional instability. It is imperative we ensure the public is safe by enforcing the background checks at the local level within the police department. This is achieved by working with the demographics and tailoring the checks for each county's individual needs.
Okay, is that it? All right, thank you. We've now be followed by Abigail Hester representing Brian Ashley.
Thank you. The freedom to bear arms is an important issue to Brian Ashley. He believes that with the proper regulations, everyone should be able to purchase a firearm. Brian Ashley is not planning on changing the current gun laws in any way, being they are working fine as the current status stands. Ashley is not going to make it easier or harder to obtain a gun, but rather to protect our rights that are under the current law. At the end of the day, it is the criminal that will always be able to obtain a gun, no matter what the laws are. That is insinuated by the title of a criminal. But it will be the law-abiding citizens that will be caught without a defense if it is made harder to be able to purchase guns. Here's a quote I would like you to consider. "If guns cause crime, why do we want police officers to have them?" The freedom to bear arms must be protected, and who better to do it than the man who has spent his entire life protecting our freedoms? That man is Brian Ashley. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Phoebe Fink for Holden Richards.
Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening. Mr. Holden Richards strongly believes in the Second Amendment and the current Michigan state gun laws. A question often asked about his views is, how will you keep just anyone from obtaining a gun and going on radical shooting sprees in schools or in churches? Mr. Holden Richards knows that criminals will, in fact, find a way to achieve a firearm if they so desire. Also, that law-abiding citizens should not be punished for what criminals do. The reason Mr. Holden Richards does not plan to change any of the Michigan gun laws is that he believes that this is the best option for Michigan's safety. And he fears that if we change any part of the law, then worse things could happen, such as take away the right to bear arms completely. Mr. Holden Richards would like to stay true to Michigan's gun laws and protect the right to bear arms. Thank you.
Okay, very good. And that'll be followed by Abigail Hester.
Yes, thank you. I have a question for the Willow Party. It was stated that it will be determined whether a citizen can buy a gun regarding their emotional and mental status, but how do you draw the line, and does that infringe upon possible discrimination against individual citizens?
Thank you. No, it doesn't. We're gonna have the local level of government deciding this.
Is that it? Yeah. Okay. All right, so there you go. You got the answer to that. And before we do panel questions, what did you want to do, Kyle? Oh, the skirt fell down. Oh, that's not good. We lost our skirt. That's not good. Minor technical difficulties. This is what happens when you do live TV, okay? And that's what happens when you use duct tape. All right. Very good. You're welcome. I'm glad I didn't notice that. All right, now we're going to move to the panel questions. We have questions on the Second Amendment, starting with Cindy McPherson from Mears.
Thank you, Mr. Muffet. What arms or weapons does your candidate believe should be registered and why?
Oh, we have a challenge first?
Yeah, for the Party.
Okay, here's another challenge. We'll go ahead and we'll play along with you guys. Go for it.
It appears you don't include any sort of mental background check on the Howlett's plan. Is this because you feel it's not a problem, or you feel there's nothing your administration can do?
Well, actually, in the current status quo, there are background checks which would include criminal records or even psychological records for certain individuals, and that is already being constituted in the status quo, and so that is not an actual issue that has to be redefined. Simply, Brian Ashley is trying to maintain the ability to buy firearms with the current regulations that have been working fine for Michigan.
Okay, now we'll move to the questions. Cindy McPherson.
Thank you. What arms or weapons does your candidate believe should be registered and why?
Say that again.
What arms and or weapons does your candidate believe should be registered and why?
Are there any things that need to be registered? We'll start with the Willow, Leah Vanderban.
We believe all guns should be registered.
Okay, that was a simple question. And then why?
Oh, because it's important that we keep our country, our state safe.
Okay, so registration for safety, all right? Followed by Abigail Hester for Brian Ashley.
All right, thank you. Yes, currently, the same guns that are in current legislation that must be registered, Brian Ashley is just supporting that what's already in the status quo. He doesn't want to make it harder for the individual to get a gun because he supports the rights that are in the Constitution for an individual to be able to buy firearms without many stipulations. And in contrast to the Willow Party, rifles are not required to be registered in the status quo, and so those specific guns will not have to be registered. Thank you.
Okay, and then finally Phoebe Fink with Holden Richards.
Mr. Holden Richards would like to keep the same Michigan current gun law, which is that only handguns and pistols must be registered. He believes that this is working just fine, and if a criminal were to obtain a gun, they would most likely get a handgun.
Okay, follow up with our media panel from Arthur Odinson from Midgard Sentinel with a question on Second Amendment.
All right, you've all talked a lot about criminals getting illegal, non-registered guns, but how will you keep arms away from these criminals? Not to mention any citizens who are diagnosed with a mental illness.
Okay, we'll start with Leah Vanderband.
Well, while illegal gun trafficking is definitely an issue, there's laws in place to protect people. So Howlett's plan is to actually start enforcing these laws.
Okay,
All right. Yes,
Abigail? Abigail Hester.
Thank you. As I've stated before, Brian Ashley does not want to raise the stipulations for individuals to be able to get rifles and guns. At the end of the day, as I stated, the criminal will always be able to get a weapon, whether they obtain it legally or illegally. And so Brian Ashley is really dealing with the civilians who want to purchase a gun for their own protection. So there is no way to prevent all criminals from getting guns, at least not with legislation, because since they are criminal, they would not abide by it. And so what Brian Ashley is focusing on is the civilians to be able to purchase firearms for their protection.
Okay, and then Phoebe Fink for Holden Richards.
Local law enforcement does try to protect the right to bear arms for the citizens, but criminals will always be able to achieve a firearm if they so desire. That's it.
Okay, any challenges to that? Okay. Is that it for the panel questions on that one? Okay, good. So if you have any questions on that issue, write them down, hold them up in the air, and the staff will come around and get those as well. Let's give these guys a hand for a good debate on that road. All right, we're going to move on to the 10th Amendment, which has to deal with states' rights versus federal government. We have Ron Muhan from Brian Ashley's campaign in the Elm. We have Austin Church representing Holden Richards and the Maple Party. And we have Dominic Natoli representing Dr. Howlett Jeffries. We'll allow opening statements, starting with Brian Ashley's opening statement from Ron Muhan.
Hello. Brian Ashley's stand on 10th Amendment rights are not to change them whatsoever. The states are allowed to vote and decide where they are on certain issues if they're not included in the Constitution. This right is very important to him because if we did not have it, the federal government would decide everything for them. This is not ideal because people who do not live in Michigan will be making decisions for people who live in Michigan. Brian Ashley is convinced that you, the people, know what you want and are capable of making the decisions for yourselves. Brian cares about what people of Michigan want. Brian Ashley does not plan to contest the federal government on any of its decisions, even though he does not agree with some of them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Austin Church for Holden Richards.
Thank you. Mr. Richards' view of the 10th Amendment, or states' right, are as follows. There are two main issues in which the states should have the rights that the federal government has now. Those two main issues are gay marriage and abortion. Mr. Richards is in agreement with Chief Justice John Roberts in his dissenting opinion. I quote, "This court is not a legislature. Whether same-sex marriage is a good idea should be of no concern to us. Under the Constitution, judges have power to say what the law is, not what it should be." As for the state's role, he said, "The fundamental right to marry does not include a right to make a state change its definition of marriage." If Mr. Richards is elected, he will fight for the right to have Michigan decide what they want to do on the controversial area of gay marriage. Due to time constraints, I will just add that it is also Mr. Richards' view that Michigan should have the rights to decide whether or not abortion is legal at all, not the federal government. In conclusion, Mr. Richards stands strongly for the rights of the states and will do what is necessary to ensure that the rights of Michigan citizens are not infringed upon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then Dominic Natoli on behalf of Dr. Howlett Jeffries.
Thank you. Dr. Howlett Jeffries believes that the issue on states' rights is not a black or white issue, and this issue had been going on since the creation of the Constitution in 1784. He believes in finding a proper balance between federal and state power. He also believes that the momentum shift in power should slightly be in favor of the states. He acknowledges that there are concerns about state rights with the Articles of Confederation, the Civil War, and the fear of a federal autocracy, and with multiple Supreme Court decisions that have influenced the states greatly. And remember, think progress, think Howlett.
Okay, thank you very much. Followed by Dominic Natoli. No, that was you. Oh, ready for questions. Okay, good. I got interrupted. All right, panel questions on this issue. We'll start with Cindy McPherson. Fix the skirt first? Did I miss you? Challenge. All right. How about if we fix the skirt and then do a challenge? I have a lot of handlers. It's a good people. Good thing I'm surrounded by good people. All right. So we have a challenge from Austin Church, Maple Party.
Thank you. My challenge is for the Elm Party. I just want to know why the Elm Party is not taking a stance on these big issues that are very important to our society today, as I've stated, gay marriage and abortion and many other categories. Why would the Michigan governor not challenge the federal government in the Supreme Court and in the federal courts when he has the ability to make a difference being in a high position?
Okay, Ron, you want to answer that question?
Brian Ashley is in full support of the federal government's decisions and is not contesting their authority. A clause in the 14th Amendment gives the power to the federal government to overrule a state's decision based off the majority of the state's decisions, as such should not be contested. Brian Ashley believes this. But the Maple Party is wanting to challenge these decisions still. The Elm Party would like to ask, well, I can't do that, never mind.
If you want to challenge back, you can.
Yes, the Elm Party would like to ask why Holden Richards is wanting to go against these decisions even though they are supported by the Constitution, the 14th Amendment.
All right, you may answer that question.
Thank you. Well, as I've just stated from one of the smartest men in the U.S., in my opinion, Chief Justice John Roberts, they are not against the Constitution, and this is simple. And Holden Richards believes that abortion and gay marriage, they're not against the Constitution. They're not listed in the Constitution. And Holden Richards is against gay marriage and abortion. So for those reasons.
Okay, thank you very much. Good challenges. Now we'll move to our panel questions. Starting with Cindy McPherson.
Thank you. How does your candidate plan to improve enforcement of the 10th Amendment?
So the question is, how do you plan to improve the enforcement? We'll start with the Elm Party. Ron Muhan.
As we said, we are not challenging it. We're going to try to keep it the same way. So we are going to keep the enforcement that is already in place, which is not violated very often.
Okay, followed by Austin Church for Holden Richards.
Thank you. Well, what the 10th Amendment is doing is it's giving the right. It's telling what rights belong to the states and what rights don't belong to the states. And by changing gay marriage and abortion, we will be enforcing the 10th Amendment because we'll be changing it, and we will be taking those two strong issues that should belong to the states, and we'll be giving them to the states.
Okay, Willow Party, Dominic Natoli.
Thank you. Mr. Hollett believes that there is momentum going towards the federal government for more power over time. He believes that encouraging other states, including Michigan, to come together and to have in one voice to enforce the 10th Amendment.
Okay, very good. Next question will be from Jonathan Moinkowski.
Well, you all had touched a little bit on the issue.
A little louder, right up there in the mic, please.
You all had touched a little bit on the issue of disagreeing with the federal government, and I just wanted to ask more specifically, how would your candidate react to a federal program in which the state of Michigan might firmly disagree with?
So if Michigan disagrees with something the federal government's doing, how would you react? We'll start with Brian Ashley.
Well, depending on the situation, depending on what the thing was this disagreed on, and depending on what all the other states' views on this thing were, we would, if there was not a majority of the states, of the United States, that were in support of this, we would challenge it with the other states. But if the majority of the states were for it, we think it would not be wise use of our time to challenge it much. Thanks.
Okay. Austin Church for Holden Richards.
Thank you. My answer is very simple and very clear and concise, and that is Holden Richards would fight for the rights of Michigan citizens, not concerned about what the rest of the U.S. would do. He would go out of the way to protect the rights of the Michigan citizens, and he would disagree. He would stand up for the rights of Michigan citizens, and he would fight against the federal government if that became an issue. Thank you.
Okay. And then Dominic Natoli.
Yes. Dr. Hollett believes that if there is something that goes against Michigan, that any political process that are already in place to reverse that decision should be implemented through multiple means. But he does not believe that we should just give up on any federal law that would overrule state law that is very passionate, that people in Michigan are very passionate about.
Okay, very good. Again, if you have questions on the 10th Amendment's issues, write them down, send them up, and we won't get to all of them, but we'll pick the ones that we feel like are the most relevant. Great job, you guys. Let's give a hand to these fellows for their part of the debate. Okay, seeing no more malfunctioning skirts, we'll move on to the next issue. This will be unmanned aerial vehicles, drones, a big issue, privacy in our society. We have Peter Ebaugh from the Holden Richards campaign. We have Ty Whitaker from Dr. Howlett Jeffries' campaign. And we have Sarah Eby from the Brian Ashley campaign. We'll start with the Richards campaign with opening statements on the aerial vehicles drones issue.
Thank you. Holden Richards believes first most in the privacy of our citizens. However, he is not completely against the use of drones. He believes there is a way to allow the use of drones without them infringing on the rights of citizens. To do this, he would pose strict policies, which would require strict warrants on police enforcement seeking to use drones. These warrants would not easily be obtained and would take a length of time to obtain. Holden Richards believes that drones should only be used when absolutely necessary. He believes they should be used only as a last resort, not as a first-hand go-to. If the use of drones in law enforcement becomes a regular commodity, it will open wide the door to violation against our Fourth Amendment rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ty Whitaker for Dr. Jeffries.
Thank you. Dr. Howlett understands Michigan's fears about big brother drones. He understands that we all don't want an overbearing state investigating and spying on all aspects of our life, and that fear will not be taken lightly. But he also recognizes the extreme potential for the private sector. None of the drones in this field would be designed as weapons, of course. And the Michigan State Police even use drones not designed as weapons or to spy on you and your homes. You're really not that interesting. He believes that there are major possibilities, which include a spike in the film industry, surveying, and geological firms. This would provide a competitive edge over states in these fields. It would bring a great opportunity for Michigan businesses to thrive and to grow, and may even cause Michigan to grow on top of the forefront of the states in the drone industry.
Okay, and then finally, Sarah Eby for Brian T. Ashley.
Your policemen endangered, poachers, Ebola, war. What can solve all of these problems? According to Brian Theodore Ashley, drones. These miraculous inventions have the possibility to virtually eliminate terrorism and crime. Policemen with search warrants can use drones to investigate potentially dangerous situations. Drones are good. They will not possess weapons, but they do provide safety. Relief was brought to countries such as Ghana for the widespread epidemic Ebola by sending these autonomous machines to save lives instead of sacrificing our human troops. Jobs will be created since drones have to be manufactured. Drones have been set up to capture poachers. Drones are an incredible facet of technology, and by supporting this, Ashley supports your safety. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We have some panel questions now on this issue. From Arthur Odinson, first. Challenge first, excuse me. Who's doing that? Okay.
I have a challenge for the Willow Party. The use of drones permit the police to survey people at all hours of the day at about 1/30th of the cost of other forms of aerial surveillance. This causes the natural deterrent to abuse to go away and instead invites abuse in surveillance. Because of this, strong safeguards are absolutely essential. Holden Richards has a plan to impose these strong safeguards and protect the rights of the people. However, your candidate seeks no regulations at all. Does your candidate seek to allow future abuse of police surveillance?
Thank you. Well, the current legislation that was passed in March that our candidate supports states that the police officers who use these drones have to be in eyesight. So these drones are only actually extending the eyesight of the cop. So cops that are out in the day watching you, going about your average business, are just going to have like an extra eyes. So it's not really going to give them any kind of edge in spying on your everyday life. And so we completely support the legislation that has already been passed and that had actually gained the approval of the ACLU.
Okay, very good. Challenge and answer. Now we'll move to our panel questions. Another challenge? You want to challenge back?
Yes, I'd like to challenge back.
Okay, challenge back.
As I have stated, that the Michigan State Police have...
Who are you challenging?
Oh.
The Willow Party? Okay.
Maple Party.
Maple, okay.
As I've stated before, the Michigan State Police have gained approval from the ACLU and how we use drones to help with search and rescue, finding at-large suspects, and helping out with major traffic collisions. So my question is, why does your candidate feel that drones are such a danger and can't be used to help anyone.
Well, our candidate does not feel that drones cannot be used to help anybody. As I said before, we'll impose strict policies to regulate them, but we will not completely ban the use of drones completely. And so the use of them in police enforcements should be regulated because your candidate feels that no regulation should be passed. So how do we know that he will not fight in the future to against legislature that seeks to open for the use of more free use of drones? And so that is why our candidate feels he knows what's best for the state of Michigan concerning the rights of drones. Thank you.
Okay, very good. We'll now move on to the panel questions from Arthur Odinson.
All right. How will your candidate's policy on drones affect Michigan-based drone manufacturing companies?
Thank you. The policy we want to enforce will not affect the manufacturing companies very largely. The policy is not against any drone use outside of police enforcement. It is only for police enforcement. And so police enforcement will be able to use drones again, so they will be able to buy drones from companies. The only restriction is on the regulation of their use.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, our legislation that Howlett supports would actually increase the production of the drones made in Michigan because it supports the small businesses or, like I said, the film industry, surveying, or geological firms to use more drones. Then more drones will be bought and used in Michigan, both the private sector and in the police force. That way we can gain a well-rounded use of citizen use and public use in the departments.
Okay, very good. Sarah Eby for Brian Ashley.
With our policy, well, Brian Ashley's policy, drones will be manufactured, and so the companies would grow and more jobs would be created.
Okay. Jonathan Monkowski also has a question on drones.
So I would just like you guys to just elaborate on what you have said. I would like to know how you're going to enforce your candidate's plan to change Michigan's regulations on drones.
Okay, we'll start with Peter Ebal.
As I said before in my opening statement, our candidate Holden Richards would impose strict policies that would regulate the use of drones, and it would make it difficult for police to obtain a warrant to use these drones. However, in case of emergency situations such as terrorist attacks and school shootings and such, the warrants will be passed very much quicker than the normal process because, of course, they need to be deployed as quickly as possible. However, these disasters do not happen very often, and so we feel that the policies that Holden Richards will impose do the right job for the drones. Thank you.
Okay, Ty Whitaker for Dr. Jeffries.
Dr. Howlett will support the same legislation that was passed in March, which was actually extremely popular and passed with huge numbers in both the House and the Senate. He would also like to lessen the regulations that a lot of small businesses face with drones, because right now, using drones in Michigan, it's actually illegal to use it for any promotional use, and we'd like to release that restriction. That way, more businesses can use it and take advantage of this technology to let small businesses in Michigan grow.
Okay, and then finally Sarah Eby for Brian Ashley.
Drones will be only regulated with a permit, so nothing will really change under Brian Ashley.
Okay, very good. If you have any questions on the drone issue, write them down now, and let's give these guys a good round of applause for their good work. Okay, and we will take just a brief respite so we can sort out the questions, and then we'll start the audience question segment just in a few moments.
What's it? This one specifically for Maple.
Hey, Tim.
Thank you.
All right, let's come back to order, please, so we can finish this debate. Just have a few more minutes to go. We've had some really, really good audience questions. The one that we chose not to do was the one that said, Kyle, will you marry me? So we're not going to do that one. We have standards, okay? All right, so the parties, you all can choose whom you want to answer these questions. And we're going to start on the roads issue. And so the question is, would your candidate raise taxes in order to fix the roads? You have 30, what do we say for this? 30 seconds to respond. Just come to the microphone, and whoever gets there first can go, and then we'll just go right down the line. So would your candidate raise taxes to fix the roads?
As previously stated, Brian Ashley wants to take no more money out of your pocket in taxes than we already have. Like I said, our improvements to the road are fairly inexpensive and will save money over time, possibly saving you taxes in the future even more. Therefore, there won't be any increased taxes when when Brian Ashley gets our road fixing done.
Okay.
Holden Richards knows that taxpayers are tired of paying so many taxes, tax after tax after tax. That is why in his plan he does not want to raise taxes at all. He just wants to take the tax that we are currently being paid and using more of it to go towards rebuilding our roads.
Okay?
Thank you. Well, Dr. Howlett plans to rebudget the money that we already have as well. But the difference is, this is such a large issue, rather than turn all of our roadway systems into toll roads, there will be a 1% tax cut across all other departments, as well as a 0.5% tax increase, which the numbers are so small. I feel that Howlett feels that this is such a large issue, and we can all work together to create positive reform, as well as using the money that we already have even better.
Okay, very good. So that's on the roads. So the question is, you wouldn't raise taxes? Okay, very good. All right, you guys can be seated. Let's give them a hand for that. Then we're going to have a Second Amendment question. This one's going to be this, to the candidates: how would you control 3D printer weapons and those controlled by remote computer? You can choose who's going to answer, and you may come to the mic. How would you control 3D printer weapons? Okay, we'll start at the other end this time. Come this way.
Okay, well, the 3D printing issue would be a very, very dangerous problem if, a criminal just went out, bought a 3D printer, went home, and then made 47 AK-47s and all the ammo he needed for a all-day trip to town. So we would heavily regulate that, and the punishment would be tremendous.
Okay, Phoebe?
Although 3D weapons have not been a problem quite yet, our candidate would look into further punishment and regulations on that.
Okay. 3D weapons.
3D, once, as we said before, there's no stopping some people from getting guns. Whether they buy it off the black market, whether it's a friend that gives it to them, whether they print it with a 3D printer. Sometimes they'll just get the gun. But our policy will make sure that every citizen is able to defend themselves if such a problem and a threat arises.
Okay, very good. Give those guys a hand for that. Okay, this question specifically on the 10th Amendment. Would your candidate consider making Michigan a part of a convention of states that would overturn the U.S. Supreme Court decisions that have been the most controversial lately? And you can choose someone to respond to that, and then we'll have your answers. Would you be supporting a convention of the states?
That would depend on how many of the 50 states were on this committee. If over half of it were on it, even if it was just 26 of them, we would join.
Okay, so 50%, and you would get on board?
Thank you. As long as this was not in like some kind of rebellious attempt to like overthrow the government or something way crazy out there, then we would be in favor of joining a committee of states to repeal this.
Okay.
The last time something like this was probably legitimately put in place was ended up with a civil war. That's the last thing that Mr. Howlett wants, and we believe that that would not necessarily be a good idea.
Okay, so there's the positions on those issues. Thank you, guys. Give you a hand for that. All right, and the final question on drones before you get your final statements. This question says, what if the drones that are in use are overtaken via computer, taken control by someone unauthorized? How would you prohibit that kind of scenario? "30 seconds to answer. We'll start in the middle this time. What would you do about the problem of unauthorized takeover of drones?
Well, we would impose stricter laws to punish such hackers and also develop more sophisticated and complicated security measures to prevent these hackers from obtaining access to our drones. Thank you.
Okay, go down to the end.
As my colleague just said, Howlett would instruct really tough regulations. We would make the drones as secure as possible. In the event of a hijack did happen, we would hope that we'd have some sort of self-destruct mechanism so we could take care of that right away without any unfortunate deaths.
Okay, Sarah Eby for Mr. Ashley.
We would immediately terminate the drone that is being taken over because we are the humans and we can control the devices that we create.
Okay. All right, thank you guys. That's a good answer for that. May have. All right, so we don't have time for any more. We're running out of time, so we're going to move to closing statements now. Each candidate has 1 minute for a closing statement, and then we will conclude the debate. So Ty Whitaker will go first for Dr. Jeffries. Will be followed by Ron Muhan for Brian Ashley and Peter Ebaugh for Holden Richards. Ty Whitaker, you have the floor.
Thank you. First off, Dr. Howlett would like to thank you, the audience, for showing up to this debate. He would also like to thank you, the moderators, for moderating us in this debate, and also like to thank the other parties for showing up with class and debating us on these issues. Today, Howlett has proven that his plan is far superior to all the other parties. Howlett has the most efficient solution for the decrepit roads. Howlett has created the strongest and most comprehensive plan for aerial drones. Howlett has found a balance for safety and our Second Amendment rights. Remember, a vote for Howlett is a vote for progress. Vote for Howlett, vote for progress.
Okay, thank you very much. Ron Mahan, Brian Ashley.
Thank you all for coming here tonight. Brian T. Ashley stands on these issues discussed in this debate. He will fix our poorly maintained roads. He supports the right to keep and bear arms. He believes the state shall have the right to decide on issues based on people's choice and not the federal government's. He believes that drones can be helpful to businesses and help police officers stay out of the way of danger. These are very important to Brian Ashley, and that means they are important to you as Michigan citizens. Therefore, we urge you to vote for Brian Ashley. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And then finally, Peter Ebaugh for Holden Richards.
Thank you all for coming out here tonight to listen to me and my party speak on these issues that we feel or that our candidate feels most important to the state. In closing, Holden Richards believes what is best for the citizens of Michigan. If elected, he will overhaul the current road plan and create safe roads for all vehicles. He will fight to keep guns from further restriction. He will work to transfer more rights to the state, like gay marriage and abortion. And finally, he will allow the use of drone technology in law enforcement agencies, but only with strict regulations. I sincerely ask you to vote for Holden Richards, a family man with a plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's give them a good round of applause. Great job, you guys. Okay, voters, you've now heard from the candidates. You've heard the issues in debate. We have 24 hours before the polls open, so I encourage you to further inquire about their positions on the issues, determine whether or not that you can vote for them or not. And I know that we still have some money outstanding. Some of you have been waiting to the debate tonight before making your donations to the various campaigns, so that would be good to do sooner rather than later. And I just want to have all of you guys, all the candidate surrogates, please stand. And I'd like all of us to give them a really good round of applause for a lot of hard work. Woo! Woo! Good job, you guys. Well done. Wow, you get a standing ovation. Woo-hoo! All right. Now, also, you may be seated just for 1 second. Also, I'd like our panel, media panel to please stand. Let's give them a warm round of applause for their help with tonight's debate. And I have been told, and I have been handed, the Campaign 2015 Gubernatorial Voter Guide, which will be available with tomorrow morning's newspaper. So we have compiled this for you so you can kind of get a handle on the candidates' positions on the issues, and you can use this to make an informed vote. And I think I've been told that when you vote tomorrow night, and I think SSI is the only place in the world where we have 100% voting percentage. Everybody gets an I voted sticker, so this is going to be official before it's all over with, okay? All right, on behalf of SSI and the campaigns, I want to say thank you all for coming. We are dismissed. Are there any announcements that we need to make about anything that of import for the rest of the evening? Okay, we have free time now until 9:45. Then you're at study time in the administration building. God bless you guys. Thanks for a great evening. Good job. Well done.